What's up, party people, to another episode of Who Asked You Podcast. I'm your host, Studi Too Groovy, and today we're going to be talking about Black Lives Matter and the Communist Party, okay? I apologize that I had to keep pushing this live back, but we're going to get right into it, okay? So please, before I begin, like, share, and subscribe. And I'm about to share my screen and we're going to get into it. Hold on. Okay. So, today's lesson is Black Lives Matter, the infiltration of Marxism into black liberation. What is Marxism? One second while this loads up. This was working all day. I apologize. Okay, here's a brief introduction to Marxism.
Marxism is a theory based on the ideas of the philosopher Karl Marx. Marx was born in Germany in 1818 and died in London in 1883. He's buried in Highgate Cemetery in North London. Marxism is what is known as a conflict theory because it states that society is in conflict with each other, and Marxism claims that this conflict is between the rich and the poor. Now, Marxism, as we understand it as sociologists, is a political and economic philosophy, a view of the way things are now, and suggestions as to where society is headed. The danger is that we start to view it based on what we understand about its relationship to communism and the politics and oppression of the old Soviet Union. Marx never saw communism in this way. He saw it as liberation and as a leveler, a way of creating a fairer society and of a way of getting the best out of all people, not just those with money and power. To really understand Marxism, we need to start with its opposite, capitalism. Capitalism represents the type of society you and I live in today. In Marx's terms, it's an economic system based on private ownership of the means of production. What this means is that our society today is based on a few people who own factories, businesses, shops, and other corporations. These corporations aren't owned by the people who work for them, the employees, or jointly by the employees and the owners, but by the owners only. Marx was formulating his theories during the Industrial Revolution, a time when Britain and other countries were going through a very dramatic change. The old feudal system, when lords of the manor owned the land, meant that the ordinary people had freedom and rights to all land. It was held in common. When the government passed a number of enclosure acts in the 1700s and 1800s, ordinary people no longer had the right to live on this land, and many of them were forced to pack up and move to the towns and the cities, which were beginning to grow due to the increase in factories and textile mills. Whereas previously people were free to keep their own animals and grow their own crops on common land, once they reached the cities, they had to find work in the factories, in the employment of the factory owners. The work was hard and often dangerous, and the pay was very poor. Many factory owners didn't want to pay high wages because this would mean less profit for them, so children were often used as cheap labour. The Industrial Revolution promoted a capitalist way of thinking, what we call a capitalist ideology, and also created two distinct groups of people. The factory owners, who were middle class, Marx called these the bourgeoisie, and the workers, or working class, Marx called these the proletariat.
That's where
Marx was on the
you're
side of the
acting bougie comes
proletariat
from.
because he saw them as being treated unfairly by the factory owners. Not only did Marx see them as being treated unfairly or being oppressed, he also saw the system as one that tried very hard to make sure that the poor stayed poor and the rich continued to get richer. So Marxism views capitalist society as being based on a system that encourages inequality, because the rich will always need someone to do the work they don't want to do. It's called a conflict theory because society is in conflict, the proletariat versus the bourgeoisie. However, Marx also suggested that at some point the working class would realize that they had the power to change things. Through education and personal development, some members of the proletariat would begin to understand the system better and devise ways of changing it. Marx believed that such radical change could only come about through revolution, when the workers rise up and overthrow those who were treating them unfairly. In place of capitalism, a new system would be established in which all people were treated equally and all the factories and businesses were owned by everyone. In other words, they were communally owned. Marx called this system communism.
So when you hear people say that Marxism transformed into communism, that is like the most complete explanation that I found to show the exact levels, the exact thought process you have to get to communism. And we're going to get into why communism is not necessarily a good thing. Because in theory, communism makes some sort of sense. Like everybody's equal, everybody's ownership, everybody is, but that leaves the door open for corruption, and we're going to see why. So why is communism deemed unreliable?
In early 2017, Romania's prime minister passed an executive order making it almost impossible to convict high-level officials for abuses of power. He said that the law was a way to ease pressure on the country's overcrowded prisons. However, critics accuse him of using it to free some of his political allies from corruption charges. After news broke, thousands of Romanians poured into the streets in the country's largest uprising in nearly 3 decades. European countries are generally seen as examples of fairness and transparency in government, with countries like Denmark and Switzerland consistently ranking among the least corrupt. However, in much of Eastern Europe, including Romania, bribery and other forms of corruption are still a part of daily life. So why is there this discrepancy? Well, much of Eastern Europe was either part of or aligned with the Soviet Union. This meant that these countries had centralized economies, where everything from production to prices to individual incomes was controlled by the state. In economies where everything is equal, incentives for demanding and offering bribes are high, and it's often the only way to function as a business. This culture of corruption was only exacerbated under Soviet-era dictators, who built loyal regimes that ruled long after the Soviet Union fell. To understand how this works, look no further than Romania, a country that was communist for more than 3 decades. This started in the aftermath of World War II, when the Soviet Union took the country under its wing as a satellite state. In 1965, Nicolae Ceausescu took over, and although he distanced the country from the USSR, he created his own, more repressive brand of communism. Ceausescu transformed Romania into an industrialized, closed-off economy, resulting in a nearly 10% drop in economic growth, widespread unemployment, and extreme shortages of food, energy, and other necessities. Meanwhile, he became a brutal and oppressive dictator, enforcing strict controls on media and opposition, and ordering the arrest, torture, and execution of thousands of people. This eventually culminated in a violent revolution and coup d'etat, and in 1989, Ceausescu and his wife were executed. Romania then began to make democratic reforms. But Romanians failed to see that Ceausescu was only the tip of the iceberg. During his reign, he built a huge politically like-minded regime, which for more than a decade after the revolution maintained a major stake in politics. Although Romanians had gotten rid of Ceausescu, they hadn't purged his foundations, so many of the same abuses of power continued. This problem was not uncommon among post-communist states in Eastern Europe. During the process of privatization, corrupt relationships formed between politicians and corporations, leading to bribes and kickbacks. What's more, many members of the elite were able to hold on to their wealth and power by laundering money and rigging elections. After the Soviet Union fell, many countries established democratic institutions, but they failed to get rid of corrupt individuals and norms, which in some cases continue today. In fact, many of Romania's modern politicians are former communists or have connections to the Communist Party. With abuses of power so deeply rooted in history and culture, rooting it out completely may take more than a revolution. And even with its enduring legacy of corruption, Romania is still far cleaner than this country, which consistently ranks as Europe's most corrupt. Want to know more? Check out this video. Thanks for watching Seeker Daily. Don't forget to like and subscribe for new videos.
Okay, so what are the current communist countries, okay? We have Republic of Cuba, established in 1961. North Korea, Democratic People's Republic of Korea, 1948. Vietnam, Socialist Republic of Vietnam, 1976. China's People's Republic of China, established in 1949. And Laos, Lao People's Democratic Republic, 1975. Now, anybody who knows anything knows that these are the most oppressive regimes on this planet, okay? Especially China and North Korea. So let's get into it. What does Marxism have to do with BLM? Black Lives Matter movement is a decentralized political and social movement advocating for nonviolent civil disobedience and protest against incidents of police brutality and all racially motivated violence against Black people, right? What is the real purpose of BLM movement? Now, this is a screenshot from their mission statement on their website. We are guided by the fact that all Black lives matter, regardless of actual or perceived sexual identity, gender expression, economic status, ability, disability, religious beliefs or disbeliefs, immigration status, or location. Now, before I continue, I want to point out that their main focus is sexual, okay? Sexual identity, gender expression, why is that the main focus even in their in their mission statement? You may wonder, but we're going to get into that, okay? So we make space for transgender brothers and sisters to participate and lead. I'm going to read that again because it's going to be very, very, very important later. We make space for transgender brothers and sisters to participate and lead. Now let me remind you what Black Lives Matter is supposed to be about. A decentralized political and social movement advocating for nonviolent civil disobedience and protest against incidents of police brutality and all racially motivated violence against Black people. But in the first two instances in their mission statement has nothing to do with police brutality. It has nothing to do with anything except for sexuality, transgenderism, gender expression, gender identity. So let me continue. We are self-reflective and do the work required to dismantle cisgender privilege, okay? If y'all don't know what cisgender is, this is just some magical word that people have made up for, the natural label of male and female, okay? That's all it is. And there is no such thing as cisgender privilege because people are either male or female. But anyways, let me start over. We are self-reflective and reflexive and do the work required to dismantle cisgender privilege and uplift Black trans folk, especially Black trans women who continue to be disproportionately impacted by trans antagonistic violence. Once again, this has nothing to do with police brutality, okay? Let me continue. We build a space that affirms Black women and is free from sexism, misogyny, and environments in which men are centered. So they're saying that men are centered around sexism, misogyny. That's great. That's a really good stereotype. Thank you. We practice empathy. We engage comrades with the intent to learn about and connect with their context. Now, when I read that, I think of Antifa. We engage comrades. That's what I think of. We make our spaces family friendly and enable parents to fully participate with their children. We dismantle the patriarchal practice that requires mothers to work double shifts so that they can mother in private, even though they participate in public justice work. Now, I don't know if that's patriarchal or not for a woman to have two jobs or work double shifts, because we are actually being told that we are suppressing women's ability to provide for herself, and that it is misogynistic to think that a woman can't be a mother and work. So I don't really understand that part at all. But I don't think that has anything to do with patriarchy. I think that just has something to do with either a woman wants to work or she doesn't. We disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure. Now, if you don't know what the nuclear family structure is, that is the mom, dad, and the kids. That's a nuclear family. Okay, so they're trying to disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement by supporting each other as extended families and villages that collectively care for one another. Especially our children, to the degree that mothers, parents, and children are comfortable. Now, that means they're isolating people. They're saying, oh, you don't need your family because we're your family. That sounds very nature boyish to me. We foster a queer affirming network. When we gather, we do so with the intention of freeing ourselves from the tight grip of heteronormative thinking, or rather, the belief that all in the world are heterosexual unless she, he, or they disclose otherwise. Okay. Let me reread that again, okay? We foster a queer affirming network, not a black saving network, not a black liberation network, none of that. We foster a queer affirming. To affirm something is to what? Reinforce. It's a reinforcing gay network is what they're calling themselves. When we gather, we do so with the intention of freeing ourselves from the tight grip of heteronormative thinking, or rather the belief that all in the world are heterosexual, unless she, he, or they disclose otherwise. Well, I think that is how it is. Like, you wouldn't know someone's sexual orientation without mannerisms and without them actually saying it. So that's a non-statement. But we cultivate an intergenerational and communal network free from ageism. We believe that all people, regardless of age, show up with the capacity to lead and learn. We body and practice justice, liberation, and peace in our engagements with one another. Okay, so that's the real purpose. Now, let's meet the actual founders of Black Lives Matter. We have Alicia Garza, Patrice Kohlers, and Opal Tometi. This is Alicia, this is Patrice, and that's Opal. So, Black Lives. We have two trans couples and an immigration advocate leading Black liberation. Don't believe me? Just watch. Okay, this is straight from Wikipedia, all right? You can look this up yourself. Alicia Garza, born in 1981. Other name, Alicia Schwartz. Black Lives Matter movement. Movement for Black Lives, okay? This is her little bio real quick. Alicia Garza is an American civil rights activist, writer known for co-founding the International Black Lives Matter movement. She has organized around the issues of health, student service and rights for domestic workers, ending police brutality, anti-racism, and violence against transgender and gender nonconforming people of color. Her editorial writing has been published by The Guardian, The Nation, Rolling Stone, and Truth Out. She currently directs special projects at the National Domestic Workers Alliance and is the principal at the Black Futures Lab. San Diego. She continued her activism by joining the Student Association and calling for higher pay for university janitors. In her final year at college, she helped organize the first Women of Color Conference, a university-wide convocation held at UCSD in 2002. She graduated in 2002 with a degree in anthropology and sociology. In 2003, she met with Malachi Garza 24, a transgender man and a community activist. In 2004, Alicia came out as queer to her family. In 2008, she married Malachi, I guess that's how I'm going to pronounce it, and took the name Garza, settling in Oakland. So she married a transgender man, okay? So this is her speaking at Lesbians Who Tech, Queer Inclusive. I think that says badass, I guess. And we're going to listen to her speak just for a little bit. I'm not going to play the whole video, though.
Yes. What's good, San Francisco? I always love being in the Bay, man. My name is Alicia Garza. And I believe that Black people deserve to be powerful in politics. I have worked for the last 20 years to make Black people powerful in every aspect of our lives, whether that be in Bayview Hunters Point, for 10 years, organizing against environmental racism and against gentrification and displacement, whether it be organizing in East and West Oakland to make sure that Black communities can be safe, or whether it be for the last 6 years with the National Domestic Workers Alliance, or whether it be with an organization that I helped to found that's called Black Lives Matter. Now, in my work over the last 2 decades, one thing remains clear. Black communities are called on to save the country, but we get very little in return. In 2008, Black communities turned out in record numbers to elect the first Black president this country has ever had. In 2012, we did it again, turning out at higher rates than any other ethnic group. In 2016, Black voter turnout decreased, but we still did the damn thing. When faced with a threat like the current president, we knew what needed to be done and we performed. In 2018,
she just called our president a threat.
A known racist and predator named Roy Moore in Virginia.
I'm not gonna play this whole thing, but I'm gonna just let it rock a little bit longer.
Unheard of for a midterm election. We helped change the balance of power in Congress despite the best efforts of those who tried to keep us away from the polls, Georgia, because they know how powerful we are. Y'all, the truth is, Black people are the strongest base that the Democratic Party has. We show up time and time again, but rarely do we get what we need from the party that depends on us to survive. That ain't right. And that's why I started the Black Futures Lab. Because we believe that Black people deserve to be powerful in every aspect of our lives, and politics is no exception. When it comes to saving the country, we already know how to do that. But when it comes to getting our needs met, suddenly the same forces that are cheering us on are nowhere to be found. In 2016, we saw firsthand what the risks are of ignoring the most consistently progressive constituency in your base. When it comes to politics, we assume that people are already with us, and we don't do the work to engage them and their concerns. And when we don't do that, this is what happens. We can no longer settle for concerts right before an election. We have to move beyond talk shows and move towards town halls. So we decided to take matters into our own hands. We designed a project called the Black Census Project, which set out to talk to as many Black people as we possibly could about what we experience every single day, in the economy, in democracy, in society, and we asked a very fundamental question. What do you want to see for your future? I know, think about that. Anybody ever asked you what you want to see for your future? We asked nearly 40,000 Black people across the country in 28 states across the nation. We didn't just want to extract data. That happens a lot. People go into communities, they pillage what they can, and then they run off with the treasures, leaving nothing behind. We wanted to make sure that Black communities were left stronger than we found them. So we trained 106 Black organizers across the country, not just to administer the survey, but to learn the tools of how to organize and make change happen.
Okay, that's a perfect spot to stop, because it's not a conspiracy that Black Lives Matter is training people how to protest and how to riot. And she just said it out of her mouth, out of her own mouth, okay? So let me go ahead and slide to the next slide. Thank you, Alicia, for that. Okay, so let's go to Opal Tometi, okay? She is an American human rights activist, writer, strategist, and community organizer. She is co-founder of Black Lives Matter. She is the former executive director of the United States First National Immigrant Rights Organization for People of African Descent. The Black Alliance for Just Immigration, the BAJI. Black Lives Matter Tometi, with Patrice Kohlers and Alicia Garza, founded Black Lives Matter in 2013. Tometi is credited with setting up the social media aspects of the movement. Black Alliance for Just Immigration, Tometi worked as co-director and communications director prior to becoming executive director of BAJI. Her contributions including leading organizing efforts for a rally for immigrant justice and first congressional briefing on Black immigrants in Washington, D.C. So let's watch a short video of her during the Immigrant Forum in 2014.
Solid. And one of the key points, and I think, Sonata, you actually kind of spoke to it around economic globalization speaking. And what's going on around the world and why are people actually moving. We have to take this into consideration when we're talking about migration, when we're talking about the immigrant rights movement, we're talking about racial justice and economic justice. And for us, we really believe that if we aren't going to talk about the root causes of the issues in our society, we're never going to resolve them. And it's really important for us to do that. And so when we think about migration, when we think about what we need to do, economic globalization, that being foreign policies, fair trade policies, the ways in which the World Bank is operating across the globe, the International
New World
Monetary
Order type
Fund,
shit.
These are all important mechanisms to forcing people out of their countries. They're not able to make a living. They're not able to provide for their families, not able to have sustained housing, health, access to water. A number of reasons and things are pushing folks out. And so when we come to this country, I think it's important for us to acknowledge that there are reasons why folks are moving, or when we're going to any country. And I'll say any country because, in fact, in Africa, 70% of those who migrate are actually migrating on the continent. They're not going to Europe or the US or wherever else people might think. They're actually just migrating from country to country. And so I just want to acknowledge that that's also occurring. And I think a lot of folks think about criminalization in a kind of a post 9/11 context. But if we're even to look at, and if we were to actually pay attention to what was going on in the Black immigrant community, African, Caribbean, Afro-Latinos, we would have had enough foresight to anticipate, like, hey, if something like that pops off, they're going to expand their reach in terms of surveillance, in terms of mass detentions and raids and things like that. But it was already going on in the Black community. However, we didn't have the types of resourcing and infrastructure for organizing in our communities that we're now seeing today. And so I just want to highlight that because I think if we are able to really foreground the lives of Black folks and Black immigrants, and we've seen this in the past, we all rise, right? We always have. It's always been the case where even in the civil rights movement, if you're able to have Black folks in leadership, understand what's going on in their lives, what's going on in terms of their economic situations, the entire society is actually uplifted.
Okay, so that was Opal. And mind you, I'm showing you these little clips of them talking to get a sense of where their mentality is. And remember that foreign people coming here, whether Black or not, they're getting benefits, tax breaks, a safety net under them that Black Americans have never had. So not only is she okaying bringing foreign ideologies here, but her focus on foreigners coming and benefiting from American society, when you see what I have for you, that will make sense. So they're using the guise of Black liberation to bring in this communistic ideology of there is no rank and file. It's just flatline economics, flatline everything, which I don't believe in, because if you're going to put in the work, you should be awarded for the work that you put in. Like, I don't believe that a doctor and a McDonald's worker should make the same. I just don't. Okay, so Patrice Cullors. Patrice Cullors, an American artist and activist, is the co-founder of the Black Lives Matter movement. Other topics on which Cullors, advocates include prison abolition in Los Angeles and LGBTQ rights. Cullors integrates ideas from critical theory as well as social movements around the world in her activism. She was born in 1983. Went to University of California. And Jamnaya Khan is her spouse. Now, this is very important, okay? Janaya Khan is a social activist from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. So she's a Canadian for one, not an American. Khan is a co-founder of Black Lives Matter Toronto, as well as an international ambassador for the Black Lives Matter Network. Khan identifies as Black, queer, and gender nonconforming. Much of their work analyzes intersectional topics, including the Black Lives Matter movement, queer theory, Black feminism, and organized protest strategies. Okay? So, boom. As you see, their ideology is forming. But let's continue. Let's hear her admit that they are Marxists, which we learned at the beginning of this lecture of what that actually is.
He was concerned, or is concerned, that that there's a lack of perhaps ideological direction in Black Lives Matter that would allow it to fizzle out, in, as he said, in comparison to Occupy Wall Street. As you are advanced in your own organization, as you all are headed to Cleveland to participate in this Black Lives Movement conference, how do you respond to that particular critique? Again, a loving critique from an elder of the struggle that some others share, that I've even shared as well, to be frank, as a concern about, in part because of the co-optation and the appropriation, that a more clear ideological structuring might be of some value here. But how do you respond to those kinds of, again, loving criticisms?
I think that the criticism is helpful. I also think that it might, I think of a lot of things. The first thing I think is that we actually do have an ideological frame. Myself and Alicia in particular are trained organizers. We are trained Marxists. We are super versed on sort of ideological theories.
Okay, there you go, right out the horse's mouth. Now, you might think like, okay, well, she said that, but that's kind of extreme to think like the whole Black Lives Matter movement is just for communism. Like, okay, they care about black people for real. Here's more further proof that they are trying to infiltrate not only America, but black liberation, period, with communism. Now, this article is from September 16th, 2020. Excuse me. Report, BLM co-founder partnering up with pro-communist Chinese group. Let's get it in. One of the co-founders of the official Black Lives Matter group, Alicia Garza, is reportedly partnering up with a Chinese organization that has deep ties to the Chinese Communist Party. And that group now appears to be funding one of Garza's ventures, according to an investigation by the Daily Signal. Garza is one of several co-founders of the official Black Lives Matter group, and in 2018, she launched a project called Black Futures Lab. Remember, we watched a video on that, right? Which aims, its website says, to help activists in the Black community maintain interest, in civic participation and civic activism year-round. The group gathers information about the ways that policy affects Black communities, and one that uses that information creatively, to educate and, sorry, that cut off. The Daily Signal's Mike Gonzalez, though, discovered that donations to the Black Futures Lab don't seem to go directly to the foundation itself, but rather to a group called the Chinese Progressive Association, a group that has deep ties to the Chinese Communist Party. According to an authoritative 2009 Stanford University paper tracing its early days to the present, and which can be found on Marxist.org, the CPA began as a leftist, pro-People's Republic of China organization promoting awareness of mainland China's revolutionary thought and workers' rights, and dedicated to self-determination, community control, and serving the people, Gonzalez reports. To this day, the CPA continues to be a partner of the PRC, which is People Republic of China, in the United States. 3 years ago, the Boston chapter teamed up with China's Consulate General in New York to offer Chinese nationals the opportunity to renew their passports, getting praise from China's official mouthpiece, China Daily, he continues. It also helped raise the Chinese flag, over Boston City Hall. So boom, there's the proof. Okay, we broke down Alicia Garza and her mentality. We watched a snippet of that conference, the Black Futures Lab conference, and she admitted that she was gathering information on Black people, and she admitted that they were training Black people. Okay, and now you see that the donations to Black Futures Lab goes to a Chinese Communist Party tied organization. But there's more. Now, co-founder performs Ayami Aji ritual. I'm going to play the whole video, and then we're going to break down exactly what Ayami Aji ritual is. Remember, Patricia Kohlers is one of the founders.
Beginning, as we like to say, of consciousness. But in the case of a black child born in this country, when he opens his eyes on what we call the big world, he discovers two terrifying things. First of all, he discovers that he does not exist in it. No matter where he looks, by which I mean books, magazines, movies, there is no reflection of himself anywhere. Or, if there is something in the book, and I mean by now also textbooks which are used in all our schools, if he looks for himself and he finds anything which looks like him, he is authoritatively assured that this is a savage or a comedian who has never contributed anything to civilization.
Y'all know when they do these performance arts rituals, like weird shit happens. So.
Then he begins to wonder how he, who is, as somebody else put it, half the size of the rest of the world on a nickel to his name, is going to survive this brutality. And again, according to me, that is the root, the beginning of this demoralization.
Notice of intention to circulate petition. Notice is hereby given by the persons whose name appear below of their intention to circulate the petition within the County of Los Angeles for the purpose of amending Chapter 3.79 of the Los Angeles County Code of Ordinances to revise the powers and duties of the Los Angeles County Sheriff Civilian Oversight Commission. A statement of the reasons for the proposed action as contemplated in the petition is as follows. Los Angeles County is home to one of the largest jail systems in the world. Most people in Los Angeles County jails are awaiting trial or were sentenced for nonviolent offenses. Many have unaddressed mental health or substance abuse issues, and many are homeless upon release. Los Angeles County has the largest population of people in jail with mental illness of any jail system in the country. Los Angeles County spends far less on vital prevention programs such as homelessness programs and youth prevention programs than it does on incarceration programs that can more effectively stop the cycle of crime and save county resources. Youth violence prevention, mental health treatment, and housing programs that address chronic homelessness work better to prevent crime and reduce wasteful spending in the justice system. Drug addiction and mental health issues, especially when combined with chronic homelessness, drive many crime incidents, especially nonviolent crime incidents. These drivers of crime often get worse with jail time, not better. To unburden the jails with problems it cannot effectively address, Los Angeles must invest taxpayer dollars into prevention and treatment. The county is now on the brink of dedicating billions more dollars to construct 2 new jails. It is time to stop this wasteful cycle with a new public safety strategy. The Reform Jails and Community Reinvestment Initiative calls upon Los Angeles County to develop a more sensible approach to costly cycles of crime. The initiative paves the way for the county to reduce recidivism, prevent crime, and permanently reduce the population of people cycling in and out of jail that are experiencing mental health, drug dependency, or chronic homelessness issues. The Reform Jails and Community Reinvestment Initiative will task existing Los Angeles County Sheriff Civilian Oversight Commission with developing a comprehensive public safety reinvestment plan and feasibility study to reduce jail populations and redirect the cost savings to alternatives to incarceration. The plan will identify needed prevention and treatment programs to stop crime cycles and will map out steps to create a new public safety approach to bring Los Angeles County into alignment with best practices to reduce crime by redirecting resources. The initiative will also ensure that the Commission has the tools necessary to do its job, including enhanced powers to conduct independent investigations and to require attendance of witnesses and production of books and papers pertinent to its investigations and oversight. Los Angeles County urgently needs a more effective strategy to stop the cycle of crime and to save county resources. This cycle is costly and ineffective. Jails cannot effectively address underlying issues related to mental health, drug dependency, or chronic homelessness. The Reform Jails and Community Reinvestment Initiative is a sensible approach to develop a new public safety strategy to save county resources and to protect, restore, and strengthen our communities. Signed by Patrice Cullors, Juanette Cullors, Mark Anthony Johnson, Heather Miller, and Priscilla Ocean.
Another battle begins. And the battle is involved with wresting, somehow stealing from creating out of so entirely hostile environment some sense of yourself. I don't want to be rude to anybody, but for example, there is on the face of it no real reason that any black cat should conk his hair. And when it's done, and then everybody has the right to do whatever they want to do. I'm not really, attacking how people dress. But when it's done, it's a reflection. It has to be a reflection of the civilization in which he was born and the values of that civilization. Because he was born into a civilization which said arbitrarily and had the force to prove it that Robert Taylor by definition and Gary Cooper by definition and Eisenhower by definition are better men than you. And you do your best to somehow deal with this, and we all know Negroes who have done everything in their power to turn white. I don't mean people who pass, that's another story. I mean people who look like me, who never eat watermelon, never go anywhere near fried chicken, are always impeccable, who cannot be seen at 4 o'clock in the morning, maybe, without a tie on, because they are respectable. And they're going to prove it. They're going to prove it to whom? This is one, only one, of the terrible things which one has got to deal with and use and transcend in order to become a man in this country.
Initiative measure to be submitted directly to the voters. The County Council has prepared the following title and summary of the chief purpose and points of the proposed measure. Los Angeles County Sheriff Civilian Oversight Commission Ordinance. The purpose of this proposed measure is to enact an ordinance amending Title III of the Los Angeles County Code related to the Sheriff Civilian Oversight Commission. The measure proposes adding Section 3.79.210, entitled Comprehensive Public Safety Reinvestment Plan, to reduce jail population and to provide alternatives to incarceration by researching and developing the plan within 7 months of amending the county code, conducting a feasibility study to timeline the plan to reduce jail population and strategy to reinvest jail system costs into prevention and mental health treatment. The measure requires the committee and the plan and study to identify existing proposed and alternative options to arrest and incarceration for nonviolent crimes where mental health, substance abuse, and chronic homelessness are issues.
And since I have the habits of an older brother, or since I consider myself your poet, and do not want to see any more black lives ruined in any way whatever, and although I know I will, one would like to channel it so that one can minimize the damage, the human damage. We are living through a revolution. We really are. And there's no way for that to be pretty. But I would much rather that one did
Before I let the 2 minutes go by, I want y'all to note how easily people use black plight to push an underneath agenda. Okay, because if you did not know the prior information that I just showed, you would think that her points are correct. Her using, because I'm going to explain to you what the Ayami Aji ritual is. You would think that that's right and exact. And I just want to note that it is so easy to manipulate Black people's struggle because we have gone through so much. So let these last 2 minutes go by, then I'll explain what the ritual is.
concrete things like to be reckless. If I were, really a politician, to distinguish with someone who finds himself in politics, if I had that kind of capacity, that kind of capability, what I would do in Harlem, for example, would be to organize a massive rent strike and have nobody pay the rent. I mean it. Have nobody pay the rent. This is a ghetto. I don't care how much rent you're paying or how pretty your apartment is. This is a ghetto because you can't get out. It's important to remember this, that so far everything that's been done in this country, we did for ourselves. The administration boasts of its record in Birmingham and overlooks the fact that it was in fact the Negro people of Birmingham who forced the crisis. And then the department moved in with too little, much too late. There are things, one has got to be not confused. One is attacking not the white face. One is attacking a power structure, a very complex power structure in which a great many Negroes make money too. One's got to keep the pressure on all those people in power.
Okay, so now let's break this down real quick. The Ayami Aji is a Yoruba term of respect and endearment used to describe a woman of African ancestry who is considered to be an Aji, a woman who wields a myriad arcane, creative, biological, spiritual, and cosmic powers. Right? Ayami defined. In the Yoruba language, Ayami literally means my mother. Yoruba cosmology states the mother's role as the force of creation and the sustainer of life and existence elevates her to the realm of the divine. Aji defined. A Yoruba word that signifies the biological and spiritual power of African women that has a myriad potential, including but not limited to powers of elemental, biological, artistic creation, healing, destruction, spiritual and physical development, and fortification, and political organization and empowerment. So, principles of Aji, Part 1. Do not dabble in herbalism. Do not display wealth and share everything. Now, outside of, it says do not use herbs without thorough knowledge of their nature, use, and divine authorization. Not displaying wealth is a fundamental element of communism, and sharing everything is a fundamental part of the structure of communism, right? So, principles. Remember that as I read this part. Principles of Aji Part 2. Aji are against class systems and exploitation. From a position rooted in acknowledgement of equality, Aji work to ensure societal, political, and cultural balance and harmony, which is fundamentals of communism as well. One of the many praise names for the Aji collective is Egbi Agba, which means a collective of equals. So we have one of the co-founders doing a ritual of the communistic Yoruba deity or thought process, So these are core principles of communism. So who teaches that these are the Ayami Aji principles? Now this gets very interesting. Samuel M. Opiola, Ifa Yoruba Kabbalah Temple in America was created as a branch of the headquarter temple, which was established in Ile-Ife, Nigeria on May 7th, 1997. And here is the insignia and everything of the logo. Okay. Now I looked everywhere. Okay. And this is the information that I found on Samuel M. Opiola. And let's just give a brief reminder of what is Kabbalah. Kabbalah is an esoteric method, discipline, and school of thought in Jewish mysticism. So George Soros' connection makes sense. So Black Lives Matter is a transgenders, communist, Jewish, anti-American movement, not for Black liberation. Excuse me. So that is the end of this lecture. Now I want to ask anyone, does this change your mind on whether you believe that Black Lives Matter is for, Black liberation or not? Because I, for one, am in the righteous belief that, they were, hold on. I wasn't able to see all these comments. I'm sorry, y'all. Shout out Earth Goddess TV. Shout out Gus, Alicia, Crown G in the building, Street Knowledge. Everybody, the fam is in the building. So, Gus, you said what? My problem with this is everyone keeps looking at the Black Lives Matter organization as Black Lives Matter when it's not. But what's the distinction though? Ashley said this is so false, and the solo ideals of one person doesn't represent the group as a whole. No. It's not just one person though. It's the whole organization. You gotta. I don't think if you came to that conclusion, you probably didn't see the first half of the lecture. So you have to just run it back because I literally explain what Marxism is, where each of the co-founders' ideology sat, and it all accumulated into the result of what you saw. Alicia says, shout out to you for doing the research and bringing this to our attention. No problem, because I don't like being called a conspiracy theorist. I don't like being called a liar. Like, I really do thorough research because this stuff is important. I keep saying that Black people keep being manipulated and used for our plight. My distinction is Black Lives Matter. We don't need an organization that's common sense on basic human rights. Gus, that's a fact. But the problem with that is that they're using Black Lives Matter as a blanket term because that's a very emotional name because, yes, that makes sense. Like, you can't argue with that. Yes, Black lives do matter. But if you're funding, if your companies that's aligned with Black Lives Matter is literally funneling money to enemy countries' organizations, that's a problem. If you're going under the guise that you care about Black lives and Black family, but you're only pushing non-heterosexual movements, which means that the mother and father aspect of Black life is eradicated, then there's a problem. Like, it's just, sorry y'all, I gotta plug my phone in if y'all heard some background noise. And I'm not saying that, well, okay, I'm anti-eugenics, so if transgenderism, homosexuality, and all that kind of stuff falls under eugenics, I guess, but I'm just saying that. Okay, hold on. Yeah, I know it's a semantic trap. That's why I never understood why people donate. Because we live in a viral society where everybody kind of just goes with the flow, and if it sounds good and if it feels good, that's just what it is. Like, they don't have to research it because it's just Black Lives Matter. Like, that's all they care about. They can wear cool shirts, and hoodie, and they can feel like they're making change and blase splee, and then that's just how you get, like you said, caught in the semantic trap. Ashley says, what does sexuality have to do with anything? Does a gay black life mean less to you than that of a straight black life? Not at all. If I see any type of black person being oppressed, I'm going to help. But the problem is that it's not black trans life matters. It's not black gays matter. It's black lives matter. And they're not outwardly saying that this movement is for the LGBTQ community. But in their actions and in their mission statement and the things that they're doing behind the scenes are, and that's the issue. They're getting an international platform off of an issue that they're not even pertaining to, that they don't even care about. They literally, in their mission statement, please run it back, because I think, I'm not, please clarify if you watched it from the beginning, but I think that's you're falling for the emotional trap that I'm talking about. And thank you, Gus. A straight black life means less to them being the BLM organization. Thank you. I could not have said it any better. And they say that in their mission statement. Please run it back, or I'll, just for the hell of it, I'll boot my lecture right back up and just show you you know what, I'm gonna do it. Because that's the issue. It's okay. Y'all know how anti-Semitism works, right? Whenever you say anything perceived negative about Jewish people, they say you're anti-Semitic. Well, that's how the LGBTQ community does. Whenever you say anything that's not just ultra positive about, homosexuals or the LGBTQ community or anything, then you're automatically homophobic, or you automatically hate all gay people, or you automatically aren't progressive, and all these other anti-labels that you get put on for just speaking the truth, So I'm going to boot it up just so y'all can see again. Hopefully my computer doesn't freeze, because usually when I boot something up while I'm on live, it starts acting stupid. So, but while y'all wait, please like, share, and subscribe to this, because this is very vital information. I have not seen anybody talk about it. You feel me? So I really felt like this really needed to be talked about. It's booting up now. Okay. And Alicia says, while this is booting up, I also want to know, how did they choose these people to represent our people? They obviously did it to receive our financial support. That's a fact. That's a fact. And you see the type of circles. Ashley says, have you been to a Black Lives Matter movement meeting? And that is so untrue. Nowhere do they state that a black straight life matters less. I will show you the proof. No, I have not been to a Black Lives Matter movement, because I am not anti-American. I am not anti-heterosexual. And I am not into trying to dismantle the United States. I am more or less about the upliftment of Black consciousness and Black life. So, no, I have not been to a Black Lives Matter movement. You might as well ask your white friend, has he been to a Klan meeting? Because that's what that seems like to me. But hold on. Alicia said, I side-eyed the organization when I saw it was headed by 2 gay women. I'm never against gay people. I just know that it won't be about all Black people when gay women are involved. Because what don't nobody want to admit is that a lot of homosexual women hate men. And that's just what it is. A lot of feminists, a lot of homosexual Black women hate men, and that's just the truth. I've never heard. I'm serious. In my whole entire life, it is rare, and I have not heard yet a homosexual Black woman have anything positive to say about Black men. I just have not heard it. If y'all have heard a homosexual Black woman say something good about Black men, please let me know in the comments. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but in my life, in my almost 28 years on this earth, I have never heard anything positive at all, period. Ever. So let me share my screen so I can show them receipts. Show them receipts with the coupons on it. Okay, once again, and this is something I did not even think to show. This is a communist logo. This is the communist logo, and this is the Black Lives Matter fist, and they have the same fist, okay? Communismo, fight for communism, Black Lives Matter, okay? But let me go ahead and go to their mission statement again, since, I keep the receipts. And actually, you know what? I'm going to full screen it, and I'll reread it again. But let me do the slideshow so people can actually see it even bigger. And I don't know why that's popping up because that's never happened before. Okay, I'm trying to make sure everybody can see that. Okay, so what is the real purpose of BLM movement? All right. It is, we are guided by the fact that all Black lives matter, regardless of actual or perceived sexual identity, gender expression, economic status, ability, disability, religious beliefs or disbeliefs, immigration status or location. We make space for transgender brothers and sisters to participate and lead. We are self-reflexive and do the work required to dismantle cisgender privilege. Now, if you don't know, once again, what cisgender is, it's natural males and females. So they're trying to dismantle the roles, the so-called perceived privilege of natural men and women. If that's not heterosexual hate, I don't know what it is, but let's continue. And uplift Black trans folk, especially Black trans women who continue to be disproportionately impacted by trans antagonistic violence. And now you guys understand why that is so important to them, because what are they married to? Transgender women. Let's continue. We build a space that affirms Black women and is free from sexism, misogyny, and environments in which men are centered. Once again, that's men hate. Let me reread that for you guys out there. We build a space that affirms Black women and is free from sexism, misogyny, and environments in which men are centered. Once again, and environments in which men are censored. How is that not men hate? I'm not understanding. We practice empathy. We engage comrades, which I said Antifa. That's why they keep aligning themselves with Antifa, burning down Black businesses and Black neighborhoods, with the intent to learn about and connect with their context, which is the information gathering that they already admitted. We make our spaces family friendly and enable parents to fully participate with their children. We dismantle the patriarchal practice that requires mothers to work double shifts so that they can mother in private even as they participate in public justice work, i.e., we gonna make them not work and give them government assistance so they can go protest for us. That is basically what they're saying, to dismantle the patriarchal practice. We disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure. What is a nuclear family? It is the man, woman, and child. So they're trying to disrupt the nuclear family structure. which isn't just Western. Even in ancient Africa, there was still man, woman, and child. Like that is the basic, universal, natural construct of family. Okay. We disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement by supporting each other as extended families and villages that collectively care for one another, especially our children, to the degree that mothers, parents, and children are comfortable. Okay? Mothers, parents, and children. Where's the fathers? Once again, mothers, parents, and children. Where are the fathers? Nowhere. In their future, they don't want men. They hate heterosexuals. It's just in plain sight. We foster a queer affirming network, not a black affirming network, not a liberation affirming network. We foster a queer affirming network. When we gather, we do so with the intention of freeing ourselves from not racism, freeing ourselves not from poverty, but freeing ourselves from the tight grip of heteronormative thinking, or rather, the belief that all in the world are heterosexual unless she, he, or they disclose otherwise. Like that, if that's not men hate, I don't know what it is. I don't know. I'm gonna close just in case I gotta pull up more receipts. Hold on. Let me see. I've been to protests, talked with people, seen different views. I have a packet you can read. I would definitely like to read that packet. She says, I have my best friend, she just isn't attracted to them. I am curious to know what positive things she has to say about men. Here's the thing, Black Lives Matter is copyrighted in my eyes that take away all validity. That's a fact. Ashley, we aren't interested in packets. We want truth and proof. Why don't you invite those people to Studi's channel to explain their position? That is actually a good idea. I would love for you to, for anybody, not just Ashley. This ain't pick on Ashley Day. That's Bay right there. But I would love to speak to a Black Lives Matter organizer, because I would throw these receipts in their face and tell them to explain to me why is there Marxism and communism and Chinese ties to a supposedly Black liberation movement. They have a lot to answer to. Do you realize this is what white people want? Black men, gay, straight, whatever, against each other. But a white man didn't write that mission statement, though. Like, that's not fair to blame white men for something that lesbian women are doing. And not so women have more opinions to lead, but have to be in the house or have to work 2 jobs taking care of a family. Women have the ability to lead. No one said that women don't have the ability to lead. I actually believe in the matrilineal system of a woman directs the household and men make sure to uphold what they direct. Like, I think the male ego is an overblown concept, because most of us have grown up in single mothers' homes. So that is a dated mental construct that they're trying to push as if it's still relevant. You don't have to put someone down to lift someone up. We don't need less heterosexual households to uplift trans or other people's households. Gus said that. That's a fact. I can speak for myself, and the fathers are being killed. If you don't see that, I do see that. But they're not talking about that. They're talking about taking down heteronormative establishments. Like, that's what they're talking about. They're not talking about protecting fathers, teaching boys how to protect themselves, teaching job skills and financial stability. They're not talking about none of that. They're literally focused on sexuality. Men can honestly do things people can't see. She sees men as protectors, natural leaders. She said nothing about that. I don't know. Oh, you're talking about the girl, your friend. Okay. I would like to speak to her. I I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I want to interview a homosexual person. I want to actually interview a homosexual woman and a homosexual man just to pick their brains on how they see life and, you know, their thought process and everything like that. Like I really want to. Alicia says, I don't work 2 jobs, but even I know and realize that children need both parents, and you don't have to exclude men in order to uplift women or vice versa. The point is to bring all of us together. That's a fact. That's a fact. And I don't see like they're trying to hold on. Okay. All right. But anyways, I mean, I don't know. Like the proof is in the facts. I didn't make that up. I didn't write those articles. All I did was research it and connect it. You can't say that, oh, they're not part of the Black Labs is not part of that organization when we just saw that the Black Labs organization is headed by the co-founder, right? So there we go. Like there's no denying that. I'm sorry that people have been lied to and tricked into believing that this movement actually cares about the Black family, but they don't. All they're doing is letting these Antifa people and letting these ignorant Black people burn down our communities and burn down shops and shit that black entrepreneurs don't have the insurance to cover, because that's all they have was they put everything into their business. Like that's all they're doing. And now what they're doing is they're not backing up these protesters. They're actually saying that we don't condone that. We don't condone you burning down neighborhoods. Now that the damage is done, now that they've pushed themselves into international fucking into the international realm, now they're condemning and saying, oh no, rioting and non-peaceful protests is wrong. So that's the trick and that's the flip. So everybody has been manipulated. Alicia says, I would love to see that interview. That way we can understand different views so that we can get through this and move on to saving ourselves. That's a fact. For real. If y'all know anybody, and I don't just want Joe Schmo from, you know, the corner store that you know. I want somebody that is intellectual, who knows what they're talking about, who can speak from a non-emotional mindset to have an actual conversation. I don't even want to debate. I just want to have a conversation. Because like I said, if I saw a Black gay person being mistreated, I'm going to help them. I'm going to swing because they still my brother and sister, regardless if I agree with their lifestyle or not. Like at the end of the day, what they do in their bedroom or in private has nothing to do with me. But do I want transgenders reading books to little kids in libraries? No, I do not. Do I want people to not have to be confused about which bathroom they can use? No, I do not. Do I want somebody who feels like they're a woman with balls and a penis to go pee in the same bathroom as my future daughter? No, I do not. That's not what I want. That's not the type of future that I want. Do I want to be walking down the street and with my son, and then I see transgenders walking down the street and I have to explain to him that that's not a girl? No, I do not. Did y'all see that picture where the little girl was like petting a grown man in a, hold on, let me look that up real quick. Let me see if I can find that. Cause y'all might think I'm bullshit. Fuck. Okay. Sorry, my computer froze a little bit. Yosef says, peace, King. You dropping facts to their backs. Facts. But I saw this picture. I don't know if I can find it, but I saw this picture where this little girl was petting a grown man in a leather suit dressed up like a dog. And that's something I don't want for my future kids. I don't want that. I don't want that for my nieces and nephews. I don't want that for my damn self. Okay? That kind of stuff is just, you keep that private. There's just some things that you keep private. Like, if you like that kind of stuff, that's cool. But why do you have to be around kids doing that? Like, I'm not understanding. I'm not understanding the obsession with kids in that aspect of sexuality, sexualizing kids. I'm just not. I mean, I know we're talking about Black Lives Matter, but it's kind of hard not to slide into the transgender conversation, because for one, she's married to a transgender, and for two, they're acting like, you know, that's just part of nature, and it's not. I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry, it's just not. Like, I don't know what else to say, and that's not even opinion. That's feminine and masculine energy equals creation. That's in plants. That's in humans. That's in animals. That's in when you plug in your goddamn phone into the socket. The socket is the vagina, and the plug is the penis, and boom, there's electricity. Like, it's just natural. It's a natural thing. Feminine and masculine energy. I mean, that's just what it is. So, does anybody else have anything to add before I end this? If you do not, I am going to play one of the newest, a new video out by the artist King Cassius. You feel me? It is so dope. It's hard. It's hard to me. So I'm gonna play that. If nobody else has anything else to say on this topic, please, if you can't think of something now, but you think of something later, do not hesitate to put your opinion in the comments. I always read comments. I always appreciate people who run back and comment and everything. So I appreciate each and every one of you who agreed and disagreed with me. Please like, share, subscribe, and spread the word, because there is information in here that I know for a fact that people don't know. Okay, so like, that's just what it is. I don't know. I enjoy teaching this. I will be going on a high. Oh, shoot. I think it for okay. I am going on a hiatus soon. We have hold on. Well, that's a point I don't agree with. I don't have a problem with trans people because, like you said, what they do not affect me. And Alicia says, thanks again, Studi. Okay, so I will be going on a hiatus soon. I got 2 more Just Vibes volumes to drop, and then we're going to have a really nice debate. And then but then, yeah, I'm gonna go on a break because there's a lot of stuff that I'm trying to do in the background, and then y'all know how I do. I pop out stronger than I was in the first place. So Yosef says that people want a movement, start your own. That's a fact. Or you could always just tune into Who Asked You podcast. That's a movement in itself. So the song I'm gonna play for you all. It's called, hold on one second. Hold on, my computer is running slow for some reason. Okay, so I'm about to share my screen. And I hope y'all enjoy this song and y'all have a wonderful night, okay?
It ain't pouring, but it's rainy. It ain't pouring, but it's rainy.
Why you say he aiming at my head, bitch, I ain't going down. Soon as you get chasing all that chicken, niggas flock around. Said this in a shot straight to my crib and hear no gun sounds. I'ma make this money on my own, it's really fucking now. Why you say he aiming at my head, bitch, I ain't going down. Soon as you get chasing all that chicken, niggas flock around. Said this in a shot right in my crib and hear no gun sounds. I'ma make this money on my own, it's really fucking now. I'ma make this money on my own, it's really fucking now. Bitch, this ain't no sport, this ain't no game, bitch, we don't punt around. I don't like to fuck around with people that ain't really down. Wouldn't even tell niggas my name, bitch, my name Billy now. Still want a 9 to 5 for that check, that shit funny now. I know you a bitch, niggas, so stop waving that gun around. I can have a nigga end up hurt while I'm just sitting down. Said they really selling that Joe Exotic, quit that lying out. I've been feeling so emotional. Hate this feeling in my heart so cold. Been through some shit even God don't know. So why the fuck would I let you close? Now my nigga, I ain't got no bros. Chasing chicken, I ain't chasing no hoes. Remember days I ain't had no hoes. I swear to God, this hustle helped me cope. Why you say he aiming at my head, bitch, I ain't going down. Soon as you get chasing all that chicken, niggas flock around. Said this in a shot straight to my crib and hear no gun sounds. I'ma make this money on my own, it's really fucking now. Why you say he aiming at my head, bitch, I ain't going down. Soon as you get chasing all that chicken, niggas flock around. Said this in a shot right in my crib and hear no gun sounds. I'ma make this money on my own, it's really fucking now.
I get the aiming at the head and niggas ducking down. These hoes like crisscross, how they jump around. Used to have a problem getting money, I be thumbing now. These blue faces make your 30 on a bust it down. This ain't a boxing match, I make you fight 100 rounds. I was going crazy as a kid, I had to dumb it down. And here's coming through the rumble, hear the thunder sound. When you hear me rapping through the speaker, this how money sound. I just see niggas, me and 4 hoes. I'm fresh as hell, thing, I don't know clothes. I just middleman to play on 4 bows. And it was ice, so I'm feeling so cold. Service off, got these niggas nose froze. In the circus, all these niggas bozo. For a trick, got me moving slow-mo. FOMO, hold on. Why you say he aiming at my head, bitch, I ain't going down. Soon as you get chasing all that chicken, niggas flock around. Said this in a shot straight to my crib and hear no gun sounds. I'ma make this money on my own, it's really fucking now. Why you say he aiming at my head, bitch, I ain't going down. Soon as you get chasing all that chicken, niggas flock around. Said this in a shot right in